So I go about 19 keys. I represent a new mind. One that just goes on a mission and get it done.
Today, I join you in a place where it is the youngest nation on earth.
When I come to Uganda, it's a very beautiful country. I meditated at the Equator. I tried the strong, robustest coffee. I came here to get a supplier for Supermind as well, to teach the world about the high volcanic altitude coffee that also is good for cognitive performance. So when I think about Africa, it's more so, how can Africa control the story? The way people buy into brands is by what they feel about it.
Because why wouldn't I want the strongest caffeine robustest in the world that comes from Uganda?
There's always going to be conflict, but I'm not into politics, I'm into the building. On behalf of the global diaspora, we would like to help build that bridge of strength. I'm 19 Keys, and this is Supermind, and I'm ready to do business with Uganda.
I'm 19 Keys, and this is High Level Conversation.
Come with me as I do my first interview with a president. This is the third longest serving president on the African continent. His name is Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. He's been in power since 1986, which is nearly 40 years. And in all that time, he has never done a podcast. Not with Western media, not with African media, not with anyone until now. But before I show you that conversation, I need you to show how we got here. Because the story isn't about access, it's about the context. It's about what it means for Black America to sit across from an African head of state. Not as a journalist, not as a critic, but as a bridge. And to understand that, you need to understand who this man is, what Uganda has been through, and why this moment matters. I went to Uganda for coffee. We have a brand called Supermind. It is a cognitive boosting brand. It is all about making sure that as we go into the future, we have calm minds that can stay focused and that is ready for the shift. So we've been sourcing for months. Uganda sits almost directly on the equator. The volcanic soil there is some of the richest on the planet, and the Arabica coffee that comes out of that region is world class. So of course, I wanted to get access to it, but do business in a meaningful way, so there's value addition from the continent. The plan is simple. We fly in, visit the coffee park, meet the farmers, meet the suppliers, build relationships, handle business. I had just come off tour, then they told me the president wanted to meet. If you're going to meet with a sitting head of state, you need to understand the landscape, not the politics. Museveni's story doesn't start with power, it starts with resistance. To understand Museveni, you have to understand what Uganda looked like before him. In the 1970s, Uganda was under Idi Amin. If you know that name, then you know what it represents. For many, mass killings, economic destruction, the expulsion of entire populations. Uganda becomes a symbol of tyranny. Now inside the country, we get a different picture. Some people say that it was necessary, right? Especially in the development of Uganda. But that's for another time. After Amin was removed, the instability continued. More leaders, more coups, more violence. By the mid-1980s, the country was devastated. Museveni came out of that chaos. He was a guerrilla fighter, part of the National Resistance Army. They fought a bush war against the government. In January 1986, they won. Museveni took Kampala and became president. In that moment, there was a genuine optimism. This was the leader who had fought for liberation, who spoke about Pan-Africanism and discipline and rebuilding, who represented a break from the cycle of destruction. What followed was nearly 4 decades of leadership. There's been economic growth, infrastructure development, regional influence. Uganda has become one of the more stable nations of East Africa. There has also been criticism, constitutional changes that remove term limits, crack down on opposition movements, allegations around elections, international pressure on human rights issues. I'm not here to resolve the tension or those problems because that's not my role. My role is to acknowledge it exists and to walk into the room with my eyes open. But here's what I know as a Black American thought leader. If I only engage with leaders who have perfect record, I would never engage with anyone. Power is complicated everywhere. History is complicated everywhere. The question is whether you can have an honest conversation inside that complexity. That's high-level conversations. When you meet a head of a state who has been in power this long, the environment tells you something before you even speak. We arrive at the residence. It's quiet, controlled, intentional. There are other meetings happening, international delegations, investors, conversations that won't be shown on camera. When I introduced myself, he locked in. He went into story about history, and we shared dialogue. Not small talk. It was not formality, just direct attention and engagement. He's looking at me as if he's trying to understand, who is this? Why is this young black American here? What does he represent? Of course, I speak how I speak, with passion and authority. No performance, just keeping it 100 everywhere I go. We leave that meeting and I assume that that's the extent of it. We got the introduction and we move on. Then they come back to me and they tell me he wants to do a podcast. That's when I understood that this may be different. President Museveni has never done a podcast in nearly 40 years of leadership. Every media appearance has been formal, state television, international news outlet, controlled environments with preset frameworks. So, a long or short form conversation with no script, that's never happened. And the fact that he wanted to do it with a black American independent media figure, not a major network, not a legacy institution, that says something else as well about the times that we're living in. I thought about what high-level conversation is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a space where real dialogue happens, when people can speak fully without being reduced to sound bites, where complexity is allowed. Africa and the diaspora rarely sit down like this. Usually the conversation is mediated and filtered through Western perspectives framed by people who has their own agendas. I just decided to go in there and just speak with passion and to speak as if I am an ambassador for my people and my culture. Before the conversation, we spend in the country. We go to the Equator. We see the land, we meet the people, we feel the pace life there. And we visit the president's Angola cattle. If you've never seen Angola bulls, you need to see them to understand them. These animals are massive, long curved horns, powerful presence, but they move with calmness. There's no aggression. They're just beautiful and majestic. Watching those animals told me something about the man who raised them. You don't need to lead for 40 years by being reactive. You lead by thinking long, by moving deliberate, by understanding that time is a weapon and a tool. So I kept that one in my pocket as a key of understanding. My goal was not to go in there and try to trap them. My goal wasn't try to go in there and try to flatter them. My goal wasn't to go in there and do anything but have an honest and respectful conversation between two men so that we can see what this dialogue is like and to build a bridge between the diaspora and Africa. Because I believe that we both are on the same sides of the coin when it comes to getting bad deals, and now it's time to deal with each other.
19 keys, could you just come up for a second or a few minutes? Your Excellency, 19 Keys is a regional and global leader who you met recently and very interested in Wakanda, Black Panther, and would like to ask 1 or 2, 3 questions. But also, as a millennial, Your Excellency, I have a small question for you. You were unstoppable in 86. You are unstoppable now. And you're saying we should be unstoppable for the future. What does that mean to us and the young people? And Your Excellency, as your small old boy, what was your toughest time at military school? Your what? Your toughest time at military school. And over to you, 19 Keys. Please have a seat.
Mr. President, I thank you and I thank Ambassador Abbey of the Diaspora Office for having me here today. I've enjoyed the conversation between you and the youth thus far, and I come here in representation of the global diaspora. I believe on one hand in your vision about not exporting raw materials, and then I think about Black America, how we've exported raw culture. Right? And I think that both of us have gotten a bad deal because we did not benefit from that which we produce. And I believe in the future to where we have our own sovereignty. We benefit from our value and we don't allow anyone to set our price because we know our worth. And so I want to ask the question, because I know that Black intellect has always imported into the country but we have not always had a presence. So how do we build a bridge between our influence, right, and your infrastructure to where the black diaspora, the global diaspora, can also build an economic bridge, a long-standing relationship with Africa, specifically in Uganda as well?
Well, the issue for business, you need three elements. Element number one is the producer of a good or a service. Element number two is infrastructure and connectivity, the connection. Element number three is the consumer, the one who buys. So with the African diaspora, all this is possible. We can produce products here which are sold in the US, in Brazil, where the black people are, in the Caribbean, where the black people are, and they can also produce products which they sell here. That would be the most durable way, because once it is business, it is self-financing. You finance from the earnings. You don't need a donation. You don't need anything. It is self-locomoting. So I think that will be the best way. And I hear the purchasing power of the black people in the US is quite big. Yes. The purchasing power, how much are they buying?
$1.3 trillion in buying power.
Yes. So whose products are they buying?
Unfortunately, we do not currently produce what we consume. And the shift that we've been teaching is how to be our own creators, right? A prosumer is somebody who produces what they consume. As the young people talk about technology, the only problem is that we're consuming someone else's thoughts and ideas. So if modernization and wisdom are not married together, then they can be a problem because outside influence can try to destabilize.
That's
this
true.
is what I try to teach as well.
That's true. That's why you need to make a distinction between natural science and social science. Natural science is definite. The law of gravity, electricity, those are clear, they are natural. But the social science, what is important, what is secondary, what is where we have a problem. And that's what we have been fighting here. That's why here, after a long struggle, we distilled 4 principles which the young people were talking about. Patriotism, value yourself and love yourself. Pan-Africanism, love Africa and the African people. Socio-economic transformation, create a new society, don't only be in the old society. Change some of the things in the old which should be changed, retain those which should be retained, and become a new society. But a healthy society, not an unhealthy one. And then finally, democracy. So the natural science is natural. Light, sound, gravity, those are natural laws. The problem with the social science, what should be done and why, that's where the distortion comes from. Somebody says, you become a raw material producer. Why? Why don't you buy my final product? Europe, when you add value to coffee, they tax it. When you export a raw material, they don't tax it. So you can see, stupid. They're not clever people.
Yeah, well, I think they understand the value, right? It's that Black Americans in the global diaspora, we've mastered attention, right? Culture, influence, but without ownership. So therefore, we know how to create the brands, but typically we don't end up owning them. When I come to Uganda, it's a very beautiful country. I meditated at the Equator. I learned about the Nile. I tried the strong, robustus coffee. I came here to get a supplier for Supermind as well, to teach the world about the high volcanic altitude coffee that also is good for cognitive performance. There's so many beautiful things that we don't know about the narrative of Uganda, right? And so when I think about Africa, it's more so, how can Africa control its story? Because the way people buy into brands is by what they feel about it. So you can control the value of the product if you control the story connected to the product. That's where we come in to say, wait a minute. When in the early 1900s, what was being imported about Black America was that we were freedom fighters. We were trying to go towards, a natural way of sovereignty and independence of thought. Today, you just see us as entertainers, but not knowing that we are now businessmen. We now know how to build infrastructure, long-term thinking, and we're focusing on a better cultural identity so that when we're on the phones, we're not over-scrolling. I want to know how we can help Uganda tell the story to the world so that when you're exporting, people are buying it at a high value price because it is seen as premium.
No, that one is, first of all, the original problem was us not knowing that we can become, because the human race has been here for 4.5 million years. Much of that time, they were in Africa. It is only about 100,000 years ago that people started going to other continents from here. That's how they became. And in that time, man is the only animal that thinks and works, that has got a superior brain and a hand that can do work. So it is only man who can adapt nature to his needs. All the other animals adapt themselves to nature because they have no capacity to alter nature. So the story of man is long. You can see where Africa lagged behind and why. So it is easy for us in our movement, we were able to see, because the invention of fire, the invention of tools was done here in Africa by man. Invention of fire was here. Agriculture, domestication of crops, domestication of animals was done here. The Iron Age, it was here. So this lagging behind started only with Columbus, Christopher Columbus, when he went to that side, and then Vasco da Gama came this way. That's when, mainly because of our internal weaknesses, our chiefs, who were idiots and couldn't organize us. And then slave trade, then colonialism. But by 1912, we started organizing new in South Africa. ANC started, the one of South Africa. And from that time, we have now recovered. So it is easy to know where we missed. I have written a booklet entitled How Africa Missed the Bus of History. You can read that booklet. It's those booklets. Nani, give my people here those books. I titled it How Africa Missed the Bus of History. you can identify it. This gap is only about 500 years. So it is easy to, once you know it, Gen Z. That is me when I was Gen Z. When I was your age. That was in 1968. I was not a softie. So we can now move because you see you need a number of if you read you will see you need a number of things to be done. Number one, production in the 4 sectors, the ones I talked about, the young people here: agriculture, manufacturing, services. But number 2, the market. Who buys? That's why we had to talk about the integration of the African market. If you produce and nobody buys, how will you continue? The market in Africa was fragmented. So we had to work on the East African market first of all, but also the African common market, so that we have a market here to encourage the wealth creators. If I create wealth and nobody buys, how do I continue? So then you can now be able to deal with the trade with China, with what? But when you already have your own assured base, the African common market. So it is we know where the problem was, and it is curable. We can get out.
Yes.
Now the branding, what you are talking about, that's part of the software, but the hardware is the infrastructure of how you create wealth. You produce, somebody must buy. And in order to link the two, you need infrastructure. You need the road, you need the what?
Yes, in America, we coined that the buy black. So right now in America, there's a program to say, do not shop where you don't own. So everybody's going for Black Friday in America, and we tell them, no, shop with somebody who looks like you. So we're trying to keep the dollar circulating amongst us.
Okay, how is it working?
It's doing actually really good, because I was always taught 100% dissatisfaction brings about a change. And I think we're ready to save ourselves. And so I try to imprint the consciousness into the people. Since 2020, we've been teaching financial literacy that allows us to increase our wealth by 60% in America. Our global influence is probably worth somewhere around 5 to 7 trillion. Black Americans make up probably 48 million, similar to the same population here in Uganda, right? We have the buying power, but there's not a lot of consciousness behind it. Young people out there want almost the opposite of the young people here. We're online too much, and they want to get offline. I talked to the president of the Black Farmers Association, and we're trying to bridge young people to farmers in America, because we understand the power of land, but we don't have the ownership. So it's really teaching these two perspectives, because what happens is comparison is the thief of joy. You're online looking at what you don't have instead of appreciating what you do. So if we can share the knowledge of what happens when you are online, and why you need digital literacy, and why some people need to learn that skill set, while others need to understand that the greatest moat that Africa has is it does have the land, it has the resources, it has the minerals. And AI is going to come, but it cannot change the land. It cannot change the farming. That will make sure that Africa is always going to be a global wellness farming industry, feeding the world the best food in the world, as everybody is searching for it. So I think that if that is into the identity of the youth, they can understand the value of what they have, while at the same time learning how to interact with the technology progressively step by step. But if you give them too much at once, then it won't be beneficial to the country. It'll be beneficial to those outside the country.
What would strengthen the black people in the U.S. is Africa. Once Africa is strong, the black people will be strong in the U.S. because they are our advance guard into the West. That's what I was discussing with the Carmichael and all those Black Panther in the 1960s.
Yes.
They were together. Eldridge Cleaver.
Yes.
Eldridge Cleaver. I met him in North Korea. And he was trying to befriend Korean guards. I quarreled with him. Why are you trying to? Don't you have guards in the U.S.? We quarreled. And then he said, that I'm a peasant, that I am parochial. But from that time, we wanted to link the two, Africa and but here we got into some weaknesses. Once here it is strong, then the black people everywhere will be very strong. Okay, people.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I would just like to say that, on behalf of the global diaspora, we would like to help build that bridge of strength, right? And so we recognize the value, and if we recognize the value in each other, then we can help what we think is a gap here, to tell that story, that narrative. And so that's what I'm really here for.
You will do a lot because you link us with that big market of the U.S. First of all, the black people alone, but even the other Americans. We have connections also with other Americans through other affiliations like the church, the Christians. You find the Christian right sometimes sides with us on issues like homosexuality. They agree with us. So, in addition to the black people, we also have some of those connections. I don't know how compatible they are.
I think we're economically compatible.
No, between us we are, but for you and them, you and the Christian right.
Well, I think what the Christian right says they want is for black people to do for self.
They want?
They said they want black people to do for self and not be dependent upon the government. We can agree on that. We want to do for self as well, so we do not argue in that area, right? They say, go do your own, and we say, okay, I'm going to go to Africa and build a bridge. So I was always taught,
they say you should not be dependent on the government.
Correct. That is one of their main issues, right? And we believe that exact thing because we think that it weakens our position when we have all of the strength within ourselves.
Philanthropy weakens you.
Not philanthropy, dependence for Americans specifically, because we do have the buying power, we do have the attention, we have the culture, we have the networks. And so we realize our power, then we realize we empower brands that become trillion-dollar brands, billion-dollar brands. They use our influence, but we have yet to use it for ourselves.
So you can work with the Christian right. You can work with them.
Well, I don't believe we need to. I believe that all we need to do
within the U.S. when we are dealing with you.
Yes.
You
I think it's a direct bridge.
You don't have conflict.
No, because I focus on doing for self. There's always going to be conflict, but I'm not into politics. I'm into the building.
What did Obama do? What did he achieve, Obama?
Obama was, to myself, representation without ownership. So me personally, I have a saying, and everybody doesn't like the saying, is black excellence is a scam that replaced black power because it didn't give us ownership. The Black Panthers were about ownership. Nation of Islam were about ownership. And then we were just happy to be represented. And so now our generation is saying, what can we own? And that's what the bridge is.
What do the black people own in the U.S.?
Currently, we own culture. And culture is a multi-trillion-dollar export.
The music and so on.
Music, song, language, right? Fashion, the whole entire industry is influenced by us. So now what we're doing is learning the financial literacy, so we're putting the infrastructure behind that. We do an event where my brothers...
How about manufacturing?
Manufacturing, we starting with that with land. So John Boyd, who is the black president of Farmers Association in America, is now looking for that capital, so they're building their own infrastructure on the land. But it's something that we lack that we now have to go into the future because we started late.
So you are not in manufacturing?
Our biggest one is media.
Is what?
Media.
Media.
Yeah, so we control media infrastructure, stories, branding, architecting the ideas behind the brand to increase the
own
value.
TVs, radios, what do you?
Well, we have platforms. So collectively at platforms, probably amass upward to about 50 million followers. Yearly, we get hundreds of millions of views. We do events that gather tens of thousands of people, and we shift industries.
No, very good. No, we had started with but we got busy with Carmichael, with very many black people. Later on, we started working with people like Andrew Young, who was less radical. He was more. Is he alive? Andrew Young?
Yes, he's still alive.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
After the conversation, the trip continues. We visit radio stations across Uganda that wanted to hear about our interview. It was very impactful. The newspaper showed it, the media. We meet with the ambassadors. We meet with all of the different people throughout the country. There was a lot of energy and a lot of connections. And we wanted to see more of this beautiful country, the energy, the potential. So therefore, I start thinking about what comes next. It's not a one-time moment. This is the beginning of something. Africa Plus is about building sustained relationships between the continent and the diaspora. Not about tourism and exploitation, but real exchange, real partnership, building brands, and having an integrated pipeline. Uganda is an open door for that, and I intend to walk through it.